Good morning.
Hi, Sean.
Good morning, everybody.
How many people have a Halloween hangover? Sugar hangover?
No, none
I have
here.
the sniffles from all the sugar and dairy. Not
Yeah,
good.
isn't it amazing how your body sends you those messages right away?
Yep. And
Yeah,
everyone's like, "Oh, it's flu season." I'm like, "No, it's Halloween season."
exactly. I really feel for all the teachers today who have little children coming into school who are like sugar in their veins after three or four straight days of it.
Yeah, because it was a 3-day event for sure.
Exactly, because you got the Friday night, the Saturday night, and then you can't not do Sunday, even though the 31st is a Sunday this year.
Yeah, those trunk or treats, they've taken over. They've taken
they're
over.
they're crazy. That's just
I will
too
say
much.
we're grateful for them here because Halloween isn't really a thing in Switzerland. It's very American. So the international school that Duke goes to has a trunk or treat usually every year. They didn't last year, of course, but this year they could do it again. And it was so much fun. We did it Friday night and it felt normal. Like here we are pretending that there's no pandemic. I mean, I'm sure Halloween parties all over kind of felt the same way, but
Yeah.
it was really nice.
Well, here in the US, we've been pretending there's been no pandemic for quite some time.
Yeah, I would
Good
agree
point.
with that. Definitely agree with that. I'm like scouting for tissues. I'll be right back.
We're going to do a lot of practices today too. So that might be an interesting opportunity if you have a sniffly nose. I'm going to turn my light on because it's a little dark here. And so Sunday morning, we turned our clocks back because we do that 1 week before you all. And it feels like winter came like overnight because sunset was at 5:30 yesterday. So it's amazing how just that hour of light makes such a difference.
Yeah, I'm already starting to feel it in the mornings. Like the kids are harder to wake up.
Because the sun doesn't come up till what, 8 o'clock?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and especially the older two, they share a room and they have like those like blackout kind of curtains.
Uh-huh.
So it's like I have to bust in the morning. I'm like, gotta whipping everything open.
You're the bad guy who
I'm
says,
the
come
bad
on,
guy.
it's
Oh
time to get
yeah.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think we'll wait 1 minute or so and then we'll get started. We have a good 4 or 5 practices to do today. And I know Mike heads out in literally the next few days. So I'm hoping he can join us so we can at least wrap up. This is the end of lesson 3 and the beginning of lesson 4. And this Thursday, we will do the orange and chocolate exercise. So I'll try to remind you before then. But if you think of it, I picked up some little clementines yesterday at the grocery store. That would work. Any kind of peelable orange or relative of an orange would be perfect.
Okay. I thought it was today. I was like
Oh no.
flipping out in my house. I was like, oh no. So I brought a lemon. I was like, this is not gonna be this is not gonna be the experience I want it to be. But I just figured like because I know like the citrus aspect of it and how so I'm relieved that I don't have to eat a lemon this morning.
I can just picture you trying to be zen and non-reactive as you eat a whole lemon. And then as you get lemon juice in the cuts in your fingers or whatever, and you're, oh, good. I'm sorry, that was a source of stress. We
Oh,
could
it's
probably actually do it with Halloween candy and really mindfully unwrap the Halloween candy. It would be an opposite experience that from what most of us do, which is, like shovel it in.
oh yeah.
Did Ezzy have fun?
Oh, he had the best time. He was just like, and Jameson was an inflatable dinosaur, so he was like there's a part of town, Polly, you'll be familiar, Sean, you too. Like West Pittston, that area is just like so.
Oh, that's where I was. I was in the party there.
Oh, were you really?
Yeah.
Okay, so they have this like old timey ice cream spot called
Oh
Belly
yeah.
Boo, and it's our like annual tradition to go there for ice cream for Sundays, and then we go out trick or treating. And the neighborhood around it is just like it's so cute, and it's all these Victorian homes, and like it was just packed. Like the streets were packed. It felt like you were saying, Rachel. It felt like normal. It was so nice. And Jameson in his dinosaur costume, like he was like a celebrity walking around. Like people were
I
giving him
bet.
high fives, and they were like, you know, all the little teeny kids were like, "Wow." Um, so yeah. But as he
And he
lives for Halloween, he loves it so much.
and he's the perfect age. Like Duke was 7, so even this year he's growing up a little bit for it. He
Yeah.
doesn't have that silliness that a 3 or 4-year-old does.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. He's all about it.
good. Well, let's get started. We're going to start standing today.
Okay.
So come on up, which is maybe good for a Monday morning when we are feeling the sugar hangover and it's a little hard to get things going. So come to any comfortable standing position with your feet about hip width apart. So you can close your eyes here if you want, or keep them kind of gently half open as you gaze softly ahead. The idea, whatever you decide to do, is to really relax your eyes so that your attention can turn inward to your body. And you don't have to be facing the computer or the camera if you don't want to. Whatever feels good is great. So start by gently bringing attention to your core, that central channel that runs up and down through your spine. Notice how everything in your body spins around this central channel. Use your sense of inner awareness to locate your belly and then your low belly. This area is called the hara. It's also there at the base of your spine that your root chakra or Muladhara resides. You can think of it as your body's energetic home, its foundation. Relax your stomach and let your breath down into your belly. Imagine that breath flowing down into your toes as your belly expands. Notice how it feels to really let your belly expand unself-consciously, to let it get loose and soft like a Buddha belly. Hug everything to the midline as you picture the rest of your body feeling held and supported by this core channel, this energetic home. This is also your creative center. Literally, and some people, a womb. But for all of us, the place from which inspiration originates. Imagine the light that begins there at your low belly and the base of your spine, emanating all the way up and out through the crown of your head. You are centered. You know who you are, where you come from, and what matters most to you. Let yourself drop into this deep knowing. Trust that you can and will operate from your very core, resonating from that wisdom which always resides within. Trust that there's warmth there, and authenticity, and a self-knowing that will emanate outward. From here, gently bring your attention down toward your feet. Feel your weight spread throughout your feet as they touch the ground. Big toes, baby toes, and heels creating a triangle of sorts that steadily supports your body weight. Notice how the soles of your feet connect with the earth through your shoes or through your socks. Feel the steady support that comes from being held. Know you are not alone in maintaining this steadiness, this groundedness. Know that every being that moves or walks upon the earth is equally held. This foundation has held you every day of your life to this point. This foundation is always there to support you, whether you are aware of it or not. Now imagine your breath pushing down through the base of your spine, through your feet, like a tree pushing down its roots. Imagine those roots pushing down through the floor and into the soil below. Imagine they can feel something of the quality of the earth, what grows there, and how healthy it is. Push down through the waters under the soil, down through the bedrock, and down into the center. If there's still any tension or fear, let that go through your roots. Your body is like a tree, emerging from the dirt, rooted, steady, and strong in the blowing winds. You know who you are, where you come from, and what you care about most. Root down into that foundation and let yourself feel free to grow tall like a redwood in the sun, knowing you are held. Now imagine you can draw some of that energy upward. Feel it as the earth's living creative energy and bring it up through the rock and the water and the soil. Bring it into your legs and feet like a tree's roots would draw up water and nutrients. Bring it up your spine and imagine your spine growing like a tree trunk, reaching up to the sky. As you imagine the growth and energy flowing into you, raise and open your posture, softening your shoulders back and down, and focus on your breath. Direct the energy up through your arms and out of your hands, up through your neck and throat, and out the top of your head. Visualize branches of energy that reach up to the sky and let them spread all around you and reach back down to touch the earth, creating a protective filter around you. Imagine the energy of the sun shining down on your leaves and branches. Breathe deep. Draw that energy in. Breathe it down through your leaves and branches, down through your heart and your belly and your hands. Take it in. Feed on it like a tree feeds on sunlight. And from here, bring your attention to the crown of your head. Imagine your spine growing long and tall, such that light begins to shine out the top of your head as you grow taller toward the clear blue sky. Find a gentle, warm light behind your heart, feeling the warmth as it shines out from your sternum, proud and strong, self-knowing, humble, yet wise. Rotate your palms very gently forward, fingers relaxed, yet open, as though wisdom is shining out from your open palms, ready to both give and receive. And now feel this sensation of expansion beginning to emerge from all of your cells, your skin, the energy behind your smile, the warmth you send out into the world. Let yourself take up space. Give yourself permission to fully take up the space around you. You deserve to step into your fullness. You deserve to be right here, breathing, growing, radiating. Feel each new inhalation expanding your lungs and the following exhalation moving out into the world as your body your cells, and your energy continue to expand. You know who you are. Your story is unlike any other. You have wisdom to share with the world simply by being you. Trust it. Stand centered, grounded, and spacious in that knowing. Take a few more breaths here in this most centered, grounded, and expansive version of yourself. And when you're ready, and only when you're ready, gently begin to open your eyes. When and if you're ready, in your own time, feel free to return to your seat. And if anybody wants to share how that felt in your body or your mind, the floor is open.
I was surprised at
Always
how
do
quickly.
these kinds of. Oh,
Oh,
sorry, Sarah. Go ahead.
I was surprised at how quickly, how like solidly the visualization of the roots, like how quickly that steadied me. Because with my eyes closed, I tend to like, you get like a little disoriented. But as soon as I imagined, like as soon as I visualized that piece of it, I was so just like steady.
I almost never do these kinds of practices standing. So that was a flipping things up was really powerful.
I was disoriented at first too, and then it kind of unnerved me a bit until I really started to concentrate and get zeroed in on what we were trying to feel and accomplish. And then once I got settled in, I was better. But versus sitting, there's I don't know, I guess more engagement is maybe a way I want to express it, like just more engagement versus the sitting practices. And I want to say there was more to pay attention to, but then less to pay attention to at the same, there's more to pay attention to because you're standing, but then I tried to focus that in the opposite direction just by letting go and trusting the visualization. Because at first I was really disoriented and it did feel odd.
Did everybody have your eyes closed?
My eyes were closed.
I wonder if that's a factor in the disorientation. It does feel like there's more you're responsible for when you're standing, because you have to be responsible for not falling over, right? Because in some of these meditations, we can get so relaxed that we kind of get in the zone. And so there is that consciousness of being in your body and not wiping out that maybe is at the back of your mind, even as you're trying to get in the zone. So it makes a lot of sense that there could be distractions. This is a much longer version of the Center Ground Expand meditation. And we did this because we had time and space for it. But if you continue to practice this, you could literally, before you're going to make a big speech somewhere, go stand in the bathroom in front of the mirror, center yourself, ground yourself, and expand yourself. And there you have the similar sort of ability to tap into those three key words and to draw on the energy. Do you feel different now than before you did the meditation?
I do, yeah.
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 I'd
Feel
like to be-
centered, grounded, and expanded.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and it was hard for me to, like when my mind started wandering, especially when you were talking about, when the script kind of started going into how, yourself, you're like, I started like, oh wow, like my mind started wandering, like, oh wow, like this is working. Like I need this before like board meetings, and so I'd love like the audio of just the audio of that, because it was really good, and I feel like more solid now.
It's ironic because I really like in this meditation how it emphasizes you are held and this earth has supported you every day of your life. Because in Buddhism, there's also this idea of groundlessness. There is no ground to catch us ever, right? And we're falling through the air, but the good news is there's no ground to hit. And so it's both and here that we can tap into that feeling and also recognize the groundlessness at the same time.
I like what you say there just now, Rachel. That makes a lot of not sense, even just like it feels like it helped me to like, because I actually got really like anxious in that. I like to stand, particularly if I'm feeling insecure or not so confident. I like standing. It kind of makes me feel centered, grounded, and expanded, I guess. But I felt like in this particular meditation, I had to like do a lot. So I kind of felt like I wasn't doing the things. And then there were moments like with certain prompts that made me feel like I should know myself. But then when you said something like the earth holds you, I was like, that's true right now. So that really sunk in and helped to ground me, and like, but I felt like there was like a wanting and a clinging on my end of wanting it to be like so slow, like so much slower. Like I kept like feeling like I was like running behind words, I guess. And so I felt like anxious. There was some anxiousness there. Like I didn't, like, it's interesting to hear after, like I didn't actually like take in this, it didn't even like absorb somehow for me the center, ground, expand. Like I didn't know that was this practice. I for some reason I don't know where I was, but I did feel comfort and release in that when you were guiding around the earth holding the body.
I'm curious, do you do any kind of a practice like this before you perform? Like, do you have anxiety before you go on stage? And are there any practice, like, would this be the kind of thing that you would turn to before you go on stage, or are you not an anxious performer?
I definitely have nerves, but more like excited to want to get to the performance, because that's where I lose all the ego. So I think I'm like, there's anticipatory. So for me, I usually like to just have like some solitude before that, like just a quiet, maybe breathing or even vocalizing with no one else around to kind of, so it's more of a space. But standing is, like I was saying, like I do like going to this practice sometimes, in particular when I'm feeling insecure, indecisive. I like to just stand instead of sit in the practice. So it gives me that sense of like, I guess it's more of a subtle energy of like, you know who you are, though I'm not saying that.
Even the power of having our 2 feet hip width apart, equally grounded. How many times do we lean onto one foot or a hand on a hip or lean against a wall or arms crossed? To stand there like that with your feet solid, there's something even in that foot position that says, I am here and I'm steady. I'm going to jump to share the screen so we can see a few more of the notes here about this. Let's see here.
Did you have that meditation written out, or was
I
that?
did. I wrote it out ahead of time.
It's so beautiful.
Thank you. Let's see if I can get this the right way. Yeah, I really like that one a lot.
Can you share
Okay,
the
so-
script with us?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that might even be, I'm wondering if it would have a different effect if it was, like if
Right.
we recorded ourselves reading it,
Ooh.
speaking to ourselves. It's worth a shot.
That's a good idea. So we're going to talk about situations when and where it might be useful to drop into this. And we've mentioned a few, right? Before you're going to go on stage, when you're going to go do a big presentation, a board meeting, usually, you know, an opportunity when you have to perform literally or figuratively, right? And you want to feel in your power. So I'm just going to turn the light again. Sorry, guys, it's weirdly dark in here. Okay, that's better. So this practice invites us to experience mindfulness meditation from a standing position. And this is the first time we've done that in our series so far, because we've been seated otherwise. It produces significant chemical, hormonal, and neural changes in the body and mind within just a few minutes of coming into the posture. And these shifts create the felt experience of being calm, strong, and open. Maybe, as we've learned, like they may not create that experience. It might create anxiety. It might create disorientation. So let's be sure not to take these as a sort of 100% expectation. So in terms of this being a useful tool, it can be a full formal practice like we just did, or it literally can be 30 seconds in the car, even if you want to do a seated version of it. Prior to a job interview, a presentation, or something like that, or a difficult conversation. So maybe you have to give somebody an evaluation that's tricky, or navigate a conflict skillfully, or diffuse a hostile climate. This would be valuable even mentally in that moment before you walk in the door. So we talked last time a little bit about Amy Cuddy and her work, and it just ties into this idea that the way we hold our bodies, the choices we make really impact our physiology and change the way we think and we act and communicate and relate. And so we looked at power posing, this Wonder Woman style pose. Some more silly variations here on the right. So encouraging you to use this as a tool, even if you just, tuck these 3 words into your tool belt before a difficult moment or an intimidating moment, and practice it seated or practice it in bed, or wherever you need to, where you could rely upon some of the imagery we used in terms of centering along the core and in the low belly, expanding into the space around us and grounding into the foundation below us. So we're going to move right into our next practice. And this is the following sensation silent meditation. Unless, does anybody have anything else to say about center ground expand before we go on? Okay, cool. So moving into this practice, this one helps us to meet various physical sensations, whether they're pleasurable or painful, that arise while meditating with ease and kindness. So maybe that's an itch on your nose. Maybe it's a grumbling stomach because you haven't had breakfast yet. This is simply a silent practice, and you'll be following sensations in the body. So we're going to take this one in a seated position. So go ahead and come to that comfortable seat. And we'll be sitting for 3 minutes. Your mission here is to simply notice any physical sensations in your body. So for example, you might notice tightness in your chest. And so this keyword notice is really your job, because you're not to judge it, but just to say to yourself, tightness in the chest. I was listening to an interview with a psychotherapist today named Guy Winch, And he talked about using a detective spirit in meditation. And so that's something you can think about as we move into this practice. Just a detective's unattached approach, rather than thinking something is good or bad. Just notice it, tightness in the chest. So your awareness might then travel to pain in your knee, investigating whether it's hot or cool, big or small, sharp or dull. Just allow your awareness to move wherever it goes, noticing, investigating, and letting go. So your key word in this meditation is curiosity. I'm going to ring a bell, and that will start the 3 minutes. Coming into your comfortable seat, settling in. So as you're ready to come back, let's just check in. How did that feel in your body? What did you notice?
I had an urge to want to write down the thoughts that were sort of coming through as they came through. Sort of like log for future research.
Very utilitarian approach. Make this useful, right?
Make
Yeah,
it
I
useful.
get it. Totally get it.
I know the last week while I was fighting through this cold, what I noticed every time I sat was that my breath felt very light, which was like not what I expected, having been, sitting with a cold. I felt like I'd be labored in my breathing, or that it would feel heavy or congested. And it just, over the last week, I noticed like the sensation I feel is just a very light, breath, which is comforting. But then focusing on the rest of my body, like I became very aware of some like aggravation in my like left neck and shoulder area. And like I was starting to even like react physically and try to stretch that out. But that's probably what I shouldn't do, because that's not what we're not supposed to fix. We're supposed to accept in that moment. But yeah. But the breath was the most impressive thing, because I'm thinking, man, my breath should be heavy and this should be complicated and congested. And it was airy and light. And that actually made me feel good. Like, oh, okay, you're all right. We could move on with this day. You're all right. And you're not perfect, but you're okay.
Isn't it interesting how the meditation police kind of jump in there as you're thinking, oh, I'm aggravated by my neck, but oh, I shouldn't be wanting to deal with it because I'm not supposed to. And to even notice that and kind of laugh at ourselves and say, okay, there are no shoulds here, right? We're just noticing. And it's not that you can be a good meditator or a bad meditator, because your practice in and itself is the point.
Yeah, I'm glad. Well, the timer app gives you like a days in a row thing. So like now it's like a game to me. Like I have to fill that up. Like I can't miss a day.
This is the power of the gamification, right? And this is what we're trying to do for Studio B. We need to get there too, because you don't want to break that streak, right?
No.
But I've also read that there's like a lot of that there's some controversy around gamifying meditation and the Insight Timer app, and the judgment and the pressure that comes from it. That is like the opposite of what we're trying to do. So it's a fine line to walk. For that practice, I was very much in my head. Your question is, how did that feel in your body? And I was very much in my head. So I thought that was, something interesting to notice.
I was too, Paula. That one was tough for me. Every time I went back to my body, I felt in like tightness in my chest, which I feel like it was like related to, I was also became aware of the fact that we're doing this on a Monday for the first time. So I'm in like, I think my brain keeps pulling me away to
Work.
Like what do I have to get done? So that was interesting, which I think was causing some tightness in my chest. So I didn't know where to go.
That makes complete sense, that, coming in on Monday after 2 days of being off your computer, more so than usual because of the holiday too. There are a million emails waiting for you, and it's the beginning of the day. And so there's a lot of pressure on this little hour of time that you could be getting other things done.
And I think maybe because this one was, we had so much guidance for the first practice that it was easy to just stay really present with it. But this was like, like, well, like, what's the expression? Like, while the cat's away, like.
There's less to yoke your mind to keep it. Maybe I just picture a lasso, and a wild horse, like to try to keep yourself where you are instead of running into judgment or mind wandering or worrying or planning.
Yeah, I appreciated in this one. I think maybe just given my mental and physical state, that I like needed a moment to like observe and have like a chance to see how I would direct my mind, because I too was very much in my mind. And the silence gave me just enough space to see, like, what the heck is happening here with me? Like, and I don't know. There's nothing going on really. It's just it's very mundane actually. It's just like, it was just a few minutes to just, I guess, acknowledge like, oh yeah, mind, a bunch of other stuff. And then I felt like a little bit more grounded and confident because I knew some things, you know? It didn't change or fix, but I felt like, oh, I know this now, right now. And so then going into my day, I could know that and hopefully make some decisions that, can sort of support me. But yeah, that moment to just observe, it was very much needed. So I appreciated it a lot.
It's kind of unusual and luxurious to have that interruption of the need to fix it immediately, right? Because our project in this meditation is not to identify and then fix the problem, or not the problem, but the sensation. It's just to notice it. Whereas, you wake up in the morning, maybe you notice you feel tired or your eyes are heavy and you think, okay, I need a cup of coffee. That will fix it. But to be able to meet those sensations without having to manipulate them and to just notice them and like sit with them, that's a whole new project for many of us. So a few follow-up points. I'm going to try to move you all up here again. There we go. It's important not to get caught up in the sensations present in the body or its stories about these sensations, right? So can you think of examples of stories about what you might have felt or noticed in your mind or your body?
My body's not good.
Yeah, I'm sick. Something's wrong with me. Something must be really wrong with me. This doesn't feel good. Oh my God. Like, yeah, you go down that anxiety spiral.
Right. I have to fix this.
Yeah. Call the doctor. Don't want to call the doctor. I don't want to know. Yeah. Like all kinds of stories we tell ourselves.
I'm a bad meditator because I want to itch my elbow right now.
Or stretch my neck.
So I did a silent retreat and we sat for a really long time. And one of the instructions that we were given was that we weren't allowed to move, or we weren't supposed to move. And then I took a class with Jess at the very beginning of Studio B. And she's like, you can move. And I was like, oh my God, you just changed my whole relationship with this practice. Thanks, Jess.
That's so good to hear. Oh my God. I can't stand it when people tell me not to move or tell me to do that. Yeah, that's so wrong. Oh, yeah.
It feels really rigid and prescriptive in a way that meditation is not usually.
Yeah, I was like, wow. Yeah.
I have a sense of, there was like a slight sadness, but also like joy, because in that 3 minutes, I noticed that like some core beliefs come up, like, oh, I should be doing this, or I mean, honestly, my mind was going crazy. Like, you have to work a certain kind of hard in order to be successful. Like all these, I say core beliefs on purpose because they're autopilot beliefs. And so I was sad because I was like, oh, wow, like, look at these things that I believe, and if I look at my life, I could see that I believe them because I have tendencies to, drive myself into the ground, for instance. But then I was like a little, I don't know if the word is joy actually, but it's just like a sweetness, because I was like, oh, but we know this now. We know that there's like, and we can change that. But I wasn't there yet, and I'm not there. But does this make sense? Like, it was just like noticing those beliefs come up. And I guess stories is another word for that.
Those hardwired stories. I mean, I think of the word samskaras, which is the Buddhist word for the grooves that are kind of worn into our psyche. And so maybe you have patterns of thinking, my body's not good, I need to work harder, I shouldn't rest, I need to achieve more to be lovable, I'm not lovable, I'm a failure, whatever, all those grooves in our minds that we tend to return to. The idea of this practice and all of these practices is that we can change those. We can, it's related to this notion of rewiring the mind and reshaping those samskaras, because most of the time they're sources of suffering. And so as we come back to this practice of reparenting and rewriting the stories in our minds, just that first step in identifying them as a story rather than as truth is the first step on that path. And we'll get to Brene Brown later on in this series, and she talks in terms of relationships and conversations about learning to say, the story I'm telling myself right now is, like, say you send a vulnerable text to a friend and they never write back. Think about how your mind might spin out. Oh my God, I totally overstepped. I shouldn't have said that. They think I'm crazy. And it probably turns out maybe the friend, maybe her phone is broken and she never got your text, or who knows what the case is. But in that case, the story you're telling yourself is, my friend hates me, or I totally blew it. It could be any number of stories. So again, turning to this concept of the way our minds kind of run as stories that we can make friends with, we can almost think of with a spirit of fondness and adorable humanness, instead of something that makes us failures at meditation, or not good enough on the cushion, because there is no such thing as not good enough or being a failure at meditation. So some of the following things could happen when we focus on sensation, especially discomfort or pain in the body. It may increase. Now that you've actually brought attention to the pain in your neck, it might really start to throb and you can't think about anything else. It might decrease. It might move. It could change, or it could dissolve. And as always, none of this is good or bad. It just is. So we notice with this detective mindset, isn't that interesting? This is what I see here. I find this is really relevant to a yoga pose too, especially because some intense sensations show up when we're in lizard pose or forward fold or pigeon, and we're there for a while. And that's why I think so many of these teachings are so crucial that they're taught in tandem with a yoga practice, because we are doing a meditation practice. We're just in a different asana, different seated meditation pose, whether that's pigeon or lizard or seated at your desk. So we have another practice, and you get to stand up again. So come on up to, once again, a nice steady standing position. You're going to stand feet hip width apart, and your eyes can have kind of a soft gaze. Pick just one thing to focus on, or your drishti, your focal point. And maybe your gaze is slightly down. Just find some variation of a drishti that feels comfortable to you. So for 2 timed minutes, I just want you to notice what arises as you stand still. So come into your breath, again, that natural, optimal breath. You're not doing anything in particular, striving. You're just letting your breath be what it is this morning, whether that's light and airy or deep and calm. As you stand still here, just notice how it feels to stay in one position and to not be busy going somewhere or doing something. How does stillness feel? And what does your mind do? Taking your time to come back to your seat whenever you're ready. So how did that feel to just stand there, not doing, for 2 minutes?
I felt the word that came to mind while I was doing it was solid. Like it just kind of felt like I wasn't going anywhere, like solid. And then my eyes were open, so that was different than the last time where I was like not concerned with like, ooh, I feel wobbly. So maybe that was the difference.
Yeah, I tried doing my eyes open, and then I closed and opened, and it felt, I got that sense of solid too, like Sean, you're saying. And it was interesting because I think I noticed that the solid feeling was there with my eyes closed and open, and that kind of made me feel happy, I guess. Like I could take my practice with me.
Mm-hmm.
I still noticed a, like a wandering mind, but being standing instead of being seated, it seemed to like it definitely had a different impact. Like it was less of a distraction, and I was able to pay attention to bodily sensations more. It's really cold in my office.
It's chilly.
It is.
Could you see yourself doing this in the grocery store as you wait for your clerk to be ready for you? I mean, I feel like when we have 2 minutes to wait somewhere, what do we always, most of us do? Whip out your phone and do something, right? Look at the calendar for the rest of the day, look at the grocery list, reply to that text, check the time. And it's fascinating to me how really that instinct is only maybe 13 years old. iPhones came out in 2007 or 8.
Wow.
And how probably completely different our brains are now than they were maybe 15 years ago.
Just wait with the metaverse,
Oh yeah.
living in a virtual reality. Yeah.
Which is perhaps why this practice feels a little more unfamiliar than it would have to somebody 20 years ago who didn't have a smartphone to pull out in line at the post office. Because perhaps then you were more used to having to just stand still and do nothing. I think it will be interesting to see what the attention spans and brains of children are like who have grown up always having an iPhone. Even yesterday, we had a football tournament and I was walking by, there was a dad with a baby in a stroller and the baby was on a phone. So, and no shame, no judgment. I've been a parent, it's hard. Who knows if you needed to make a phone call at the time or what, but if that being in stillness is removed from our lives pretty completely, what does that do to our ability to stay with it in moments like this when we're called to do that? It's tricky.
You're muted, Paula.
It means more need for Studio B, that's for sure.
Yeah, that I was thinking that as I was contemplating this metaverse stuff. I was thinking from my faith standpoint and from a Studio B standpoint, like what adjustments are going to need to be made, in order to keep some sense of reality in what's about to become a virtual reality world. So yeah, that was a big thought process I had over the weekend.
And
Not sure
John,
how-
that's something I think a lot about in terms of church and in terms of that sacred space where you're sitting in a pew with people you're connected to, not on a device, in your bodies being quiet together in the moments when you're listening, when you're not singing or engaged. But what a rare and literally sacred opportunity that is that we don't often have. I mean, Mike will probably glimpse that now in his adventures in the next 2 weeks. But in order to do that, we have to be really deliberate, right? And plan it and make space for it.
Well, even this, like to me, this is sacred. This meeting every week is a sacred meeting for me. And sacred, I think, is one way to look at it. Meaningful is another way to look at it. And I'm just afraid that we're going to lose meaning, in a virtual reality, because what kind of connection will there really be? I don't know. So, yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that.
The word that I think of too in relation to that is mystery. Are we going to lose a capacity for wonder and awe and mystery if we always have the ability to tap into the phone or the Facebook or the virtual reality? And if we're losing opportunities to be out in nature for a week without a cell phone or things like that, how do we hold on to that sense of mystery that's central to being human?
Yeah, I don't know. Because apparently I'm going to be able to, so Mike's trip can be done from his living room, is you could be at a basketball game with like around players and fans, and you'll be on your couch. I don't know yet. We'll see.
I haven't figured that one out either.
Yeah, I mean, because there's one thing like to see it, but then there's another thing to experience it. Like, like Mike, you're going to actually be there and walking and feeling the air and smelling the smells. I mean, like all your senses will be tied into this experience, where in a virtual reality, how does that happen? I can't. I could see it, but I can't taste it. I can't smell it. I can't feel the vibe. I can't, like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to belabor the point, but it has me concerned.
It's a great point, though, and it's really related to what we've been doing in terms of absorbing sensation, because those are all sensory aspects of being in a body that aren't actually felt in a virtual reality experience.
This is really interesting to listen to. I'm really appreciating hearing everyone out. And also, Rachel, you said something that really landed, like how back in the day, like folks would not maybe have so much difficult time sitting still, or just basically because of the situations that they were living in and the technology not being as advanced. But with this VR stuff, it's like even in the pandemic, like my meditation practice like drastically changed. I went from like sitting for quite a long time to I needed to be like bringing it into a different dimension. And so because we're having all of this stuff and meeting folks, I mean, I use sound and music as like offering that different dimension to myself, to just get to know a thought a different way with a different sensory experience. But like even lately I was noticing like how I was getting stuck in different projects, and I noticed that I was uncomfortable like with that feeling of taking a risk, and my brain was like, I need to do a yoga posture while I'm meditating because I need to feel that in my body. Like I need to like feel risk. And with all this VR stuff, I think that is an interesting thing to think about as a Studio B family. Like, what is it that's going to get us to access that different dimension to our minds, because we're so overloaded? Yeah, I don't know. That's what came up when I was hearing everyone share.
Overloaded feels like a key word there. I think
Looks
folks feel
good.
overloaded in lots of ways.
Well, it's the inability to offload, right? It's sort of that snowball effect, and then there's no pressure release valve.
Mhm.
Or if there is one, it's not sufficient enough.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a real good point.
On that note, I see it's 33 after the hour, so I should let you all jump into stand up. And Mike, we're going to offload you for a couple weeks here.
Yeah, safe travels and
To the
enjoy the
wild.
Thank you very
experience.
much.
Enjoy.
Thank you very much.
And we will be sure to record the next couple of lessons. And if and when you have time to watch or listen, great, but no pressure, because I trust that what you're doing in the next 2 weeks is going to be 100% embodied and instructive in lots of wonderful ways.
Well, I will. I'll do my best to watch the next two before we meet for the third after.
Sounds good.
Bless
And on
you.
that note,
Bless you,
thank
Paula.
All right, super. Well, everybody have a great day, and thanks for starting this way. And I hope your Monday flows easily from here.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. See you.
Rachel.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
So.